Holy cow.
We got it.
We got it. I got to adjust my desk up a little bit. Let's see here. Get
I know
myself in frame.
I'm the one that got a little lucky, I think. I don't
You
really have to do
nailed it.
too much adjusting.
You nailed it. Okay, let's see here. Make sure we're all framed up. Okay, looking good. Turn my volume up a little bit so I can hear you.
Nice.
Man, thanks for making it happen.
Are you kidding me? Thank you for making it happen. This is awesome.
Man, you got a more professional backdrop than I do with the movement behind you.
Hey man, you thankfully I had a coach that prepped me well before the call. But yeah, I mean, CrossFit and golf, right? So
Mm-hmm. So I'll let everybody know, who you are. So, you're in the Linchpin community. So I see your posts regularly, see your wife's posts regularly. And two things caught my eye initially. And number one is that I was insanely jealous of your garage gym. Is that it just looks sweet. And there's a TV in it. So anytime there's a TV, I'm like, this guy's got the setup. He's got it down. And the other thing was on your Instagram profile, it always said, PGA professional. And I'm not a golfer, but I always caught my eye because, anybody that has a unique discipline or career, occupation, passion, it captures my attention. And I'm always fascinated as to what's the interplay between CrossFit and various other things. And so it was always in the back of my head and like, I got to connect with this guy and just see what's going on. And then we started chatting, and you let me know that your journey had a whole lot more to it than golf. And I was like, oh man, so that was a done deal. So first of all, thanks. Why don't you let everybody know kind of, who are you, where are you, a little bit about your background.
yeah, sure. Greg Stevens is my name. 45 years old, so I'm a master's athlete, but I was a master's athlete when I started CrossFit. I've only been CrossFitting for going on 5 years now, so this is all very, very new for me, but I was a career PGA club professional, ran country clubs and gave lessons and ran tournaments and all that good stuff. And then 6 years ago had a kid and decided I didn't want to do that anymore. And I've been selling real estate ever since, but I still keep my PGA designation. That's something that's super important to me. It means a lot to me. It was hard work to get, and I spent 20 years in that career. So, I'm always going to keep that. I'll always be a PGA pro, and I still help folks out with their swings and stuff like that. So
for the individuals at home, obviously, golf is a tremendous passion for a lot of people all around the world. So for those folks watching who are dedicated golfers, they would probably be very upset with me if they didn't ask me, what do you normally shoot? What does your wife normally shoot? So what are the numbers might not make a lot of sense to me, but I know what a 3-minute Fran means, but you can explain the golf numbers to me.
yeah, for sure. So, right now I'm a low single digit handicap. I mean, if I go out to play golf, I don't have a problem breaking 80 or, shooting in the 70s. If I have a good day, I'll shoot in the low 70s. If I have a really good day, I can break 70. But, my days of playing exceptional golf are for sure in the rear view, to be 100% honest. Randy, my wife, has always been a scratch golfer, it seems like, or better. So she'll shoot around par golf, around even par when she plays. If she plays really good, she's got the ability to take it deep more so than I do. She's the real athlete in the house,
Okay.
not me.
Well, you both look like athletes when you post things on Instagram. And when we chatted, whenever it was a few days ago, just kind of catching up, talking about maybe where would we go with the conversation and whatnot. One of the things before we get into your story, which involved weight loss, which I was fascinated by, was I always love how people find CrossFit. And you said, quite frankly, that you found it through the games, and at first it didn't really put a smile on your face.
Years ago, at first, I'll be the first to kind of eat my words. I used to hate on CrossFit before giving it a shot. I'd seen it on the games, and to watch those elite athletes rip through, a giant set of chest to bar pull-ups, let's say, to the untrained eye, you look at that and it's like, like for me, I was like, what are those guys doing? That looks goofy. And it looks like, it looks like an accident waiting to happen, is really the way that I always looked at CrossFit before I knew any better. And, as I mentioned to you, as soon as I dove into CrossFit, or as soon as we did, you realize immediately, like, this is one of the safest, if not for us, it's the safest training environment we've ever been in, is doing CrossFit. And yeah, there's plenty of complex movements and stuff might look a little bit crazy, but you know what, knock on wood, other than any other nagging little injury here or there, I haven't had any real injuries. I need to knock on something, but I haven't had any real injuries doing CrossFit, right? So yeah, I think it's been huge for me personally, to say the least.
Well, and yeah, we do a lot of complex movements, especially compared to what I grew up doing, which was more, I would say, traditional bodybuilding. Single joint, machine based, concentration curls, dumbbell kickbacks, things like that.
Yep.
Nothing that looked like a clean or an overhead squat. Complexity, maybe a bit of intimidation, but a lot of that complexity, well, people potentially fear the complexity because they think, I don't know what I'm doing. It's a really complicated movement. I'm going to get hurt, right? I mean, I think that's the breadcrumb trail that happens. And a lot of that could simply be removed by just lowering the load and getting the ego out of the way. You're not going to hurt yourself with a broom handle.
There it is.
So I think it's not so much, the movement that potentially could cause problems. It's an individual's desire to have way too much loading on that movement before they know what I mean, I was guilty of that in my garage when I first started CrossFit. as a former military guy, big ego. I'm like, I'm not going to start out in a beginner course. You kidding me? I'm going to jump into the deep end of the pool. Stupid.
Right.
I mean, just ridiculous. And so you saw it. It didn't look like something, you'd want to partake in, looked a little squirrely. What actually then turned it around?
So that was years ago, I would say, long before I started CrossFit. So, you see it on ESPN, but never had any experience with a gym, never had any experience in an actual box. Mm-hmm. And we were just getting to a point where, the standard DVD sets that you can order to work on getting in shape, all of that stuff was just kind of just getting a little ho-hum and a little monotonous, and we needed a change. So it just so happens, and the way the timing all kind of worked out, I just said, you know what? Went on Netflix and I found one of the fittest on earth documentaries, and I watched it. Yeah. One day I was sitting at work with not a lot going on. I watched it at work. I want to say it's the one from 2015. And then that evening, I watched the one from 2016. And then I said, okay, Randy, we got to watch these because there's something going on here. After I saw the documentaries and you get the behind the scenes, like when you don't see the mass chaos of all of these insanely fit people doing all of this stuff, when you get to see kind of what goes on behind the scenes and really what goes into how hard they work with how serious nutrition is and sleeping is and all the stuff that we now know about, it was all like a foreign language to me when I first saw the documentary, even though I felt like I had a pretty good grasp on fitness. So I thought, even though I was sitting there on, this roller coaster of weight going up and down and up and down. So watched the documentaries and just thought to myself, you know what? We need to see if there's a CrossFit gym anywhere near our house. Okay. So, and I didn't mention, I live just outside of Park City, Utah. So just outside of Park City, I'm in Utah in the mountains, and looking for a CrossFit gym, not necessarily thinking I was going to find one. Search it, Google it, and lo and behold, there's a CrossFit gym literally a quarter mile away from my house, and we never knew it.
Oh, wow.
So we decided one day just to go in and see if we can talk to someone, meet folks, see what it's all about. And we literally walk into this gym, and I'm sure plenty of people that step into a CrossFit gym for the first time feel this way. There were 5 people in the gym, and looking back now, it was probably 5 of the fittest people in the gym at the time.
Just bad timing.
And yeah, well, good. But remember, that's really what brought us there. So really and truly, to see those folks, to see, McCall, gotcha, one of the owners, and like all these different people that are just jacked and they just look great, to see that was super motivating. They were all really nice. And you know how this CrossFit community is, so welcoming and everyone's so inviting. So we ended up joining, and, fast forward, here we are. The gym ended up having to close through the pandemic, unfortunately, with COVID, but thankfully here's Pat and CrossFit Linchpin to save the day, and we've been we joined Linchpin over a year ago now when our gym closed, and thankfully we haven't missed a beat. We're just as fit. Honestly, to be full disclosure, I'm more fit now than I was then. So we're just kind of on a constant.
I mean, obviously that's great to hear. But when I first reached out to you, and if anyone who follows you on Instagram would see, it's like very fit looking dude, like for sure. So I was just, like I said, looking to dig a little bit about the golf side and all that. And then we started talking, and you texted me a photo or two that you were significantly heavier before and not too long ago. So, I mean, you didn't even look like the same human being. It wasn't like you were 10, 15 pounds overweight. That I was like, whoa, this is a different dude. So a second ago when you just mentioned you were looking for something new, you were on this roller coaster, I think that's a really important part of the backstory that maybe people watching or listening right now, they're not clued into. So previous to CrossFit, what were your struggles with weight? Because I remember when we chatted a few days ago, you said one of your goals was, I think it was by 30 years old, you wanted to have like the Men's Health physique that you see on the cover, but that was a goal that kept slipping through your fingers. So what was your previous workout like? What was your weight now, your weight then, and all that good stuff?
Now I kind of fluctuate now between probably 175, 180. I'm right under 6'2", so call it 6'2", 180 is kind of the sweet spot for me right now. At my heaviest, I was 265 pounds, 40-inch waist, fat, just overweight, not taking care of myself. I mentioned to you, I literally drank a 2-liter of Mountain Dew every day for a long time in my younger life. Just not
wonderfully delicious, but not good for the waistline.
Oh man, imagine like for someone like me, imagine if water tasted like Mountain Dew. I'd probably drown myself. No.
Well, is this? I don't want to derail you, but was this something you struggle? Like, for example, I was a heavy kid. Were you heavy from a kid onward, or did something go sideways in your teen years, in your early 20s? Like, when did the weight come on?
I was always kind of a heavier kid for sure, a husky kid, if you would.
Got you there.
And as I mentioned, and I won't, not to go too deep into the root cause, but my parents are immigrated from Panama to this country before I was born, and my mom was brought up in poverty, and she went to bed a lot of nights without eating and went to bed hungry. So she never wanted that for her kids. She came to this country and they both made successful lives for themselves, and she just knew she never wanted me or my sister to be hungry, period. So fine, we were never hungry, and I gained a lot of weight, and then you have those bad habits that were instilled at an early age, and then I get released to go live with my friends in college. I have roommates, and we're doing whatever we want. We're drinking beer. We're staying out until 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. So now, not only am I drinking a 2-liter Mountain Dew every day, I'm going to Taco Bell literally at 2:30 in the morning and crushing all kinds of Taco Bell, and then going straight to bed. Like just doing everything I shouldn't be doing.
But what's funny is now us having this conversation, right, later in life with a bit of, quote unquote wisdom, as I laugh as I say that.
Right.
It's so obvious, right? It's so obvious as to why our physiques didn't look how we wanted to. Like, it couldn't be more obvious. But in the moment, it's just amazing. You just don't know what you don't know, right? And there's so much bad media and bad information and bad, how you should work out, and, you should drink the skim milk. Like, whatever it is, it's just so much bad stuff out there that there's, I think, a lot of people out there struggling that maybe are genuinely, it's not the lack of effort. Like, they're actually trying to do something, trying to make a better choice, but they're making poor decisions based upon the information that they have presented, And so during this time in your life, and you're living how you're just living there, were you inactive, or did you make your way into the gym every now and then to do something?
Back then, I kind of made my way to the gym every now and then. I can't speak for anybody else that's overweight, but for myself, I would just go through spells where I felt okay with myself. And then I would go through spells where I didn't feel okay with myself. And it was during the spells where I didn't feel okay with myself where I would like try to start working out or try to, you know, figure something out that I could do to feel better about myself. And then who knows what makes that fall to the wayside. Maybe it's you do a little something, you get some endorphins going, you start feeling good, and then it's back to Mountain Dew
Mm-hmm.
and the couch. I don't know, but that's probably what it was. And, you know, as we mentioned in our conversation, it's a different day for me now. And as much as before CrossFit, I used to always in the back of my head, even when I thought I was fit, I would always worry about going back to being that same old guy that I was before. And it's funny that like now, like I know I'm not that person anymore now thanks to CrossFit. And I know that if I was to ever go back to being that person, it would be, I would have to make a conscious decision to turn myself back into
Right.
that person knowing what I know now.
Well, I think this might be one of, in my opinion, one of the most powerful or useful pieces of information from this conversation for a lot of people because, there's a lot, whether you're following CrossFit Linchpin or something, we post the workouts out there every day for free. It costs you nothing. Go ahead and do them. So I think it's, maybe I'm biased because I live in my little CrossFit world, but it seems like it's not hard to find a good workout, right? Like, it's free. It's go on Instagram. It's right there. But how to eat is a different beast that is a slippery slope. It's where did your knowledge base change from, you were on a roller coaster, like you said, of high weight, low weight, high, so that wasn't effective. So somehow you got off the roller coaster for nutrition. And what did that?
I mean, honestly, thank God for my wife, who was just my girlfriend, way back then. It's because of her. She didn't grow up the same way that I did. And she grew up in Kansas, farm life, lots of vegetables, like eating the way that you're supposed to, and
Okay.
not even for any other reason other than that's just the way that they lived their lives, her family. So that just started to rub off on me. And it wasn't even like, oh, hey, you need to get in shape, you need to lose weight or anything like that. It was just she's making food kind of thing, and I'm going to eat it because she's making it. And that's my girlfriend. And, so she was really, she gets all the credit. Obviously I put the work in and I do the stuff, but she drove the ship. And if I didn't say that, if I didn't give her the credit, that it'd be shame on me for that because she's the one.
That's fantastic. I'm going to press you a bit more because there's plenty of people, okay, unless you're now a different human being, right? But you could put plenty of people that, I don't know what it is. Is it nature? Is it nurture? I just feel like I was born with a sweet tooth, quite frankly, period. And I have it to this day that I have to control. And even if you put me in an environment that was surrounded by vegetables, I may eat those vegetables, but in the back of my head, I still crave what I crave, and it still calls to me. So are you a wildly different person, or have you found a way to manage those cravings? Because I think that's also what really people struggle with.
Same dude, 100% same dude. Just look different and just make different decisions. I still have the sweetest tooth. I like, dude, I'm willing to bet my tooth is sweeter than yours. Like I'm the
we,
worst.
we may have to settle this one day.
I'm the worst. Like if it, I mean, okay, the Mountain Dew stuff was a very, very long time ago, but I'll tell you, I can't tell you the last time I drank a 2-liter Mountain Dew. If you challenge me to do it right now, I could probably do it and I would enjoy myself. Until obviously later when I'm feeling the effects of what all of that sugar and jet fuel did to me. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but no, I still very much have a sweet tooth. And here's the thing, right? Like when I was overweight and I was struggling, that's when I restricted stuff the most as far as sweets and things like that. It was when I was trying to get to this end goal. And then you start doing CrossFit, and again, with the deepest rabbit hole ever,
Mm-hmm.
you start digging into, ways to sleep better, or ways to eat better, or whatever the case is. And then, from there, now I don't have like, and like we talked about, now I can take a week or two off if I want to. And thank God, I'm still going to look this same way. I'm not going to just backtrack like I thought I would back in the past. But as you mentioned to me when we were having that conversation a few days ago, it's because even if I take time off from work, it doesn't mean I'm going to go back to drinking 2 liters of Mountain Dew. immediate,
Right.
like, you know what I mean? Every day that I'm not taking time from training. So
Yeah, it's funny. There are those people out there, and I'm envious of them. They'll say things like, I've been eating clean for a couple years, and now, what I used to eat doesn't even taste good anymore. I'm like, really? Because if I had a bowl of Frosted Flakes right now or a Dairy Queen Blizzard, it would taste just as remarkably delicious as the day that I remembered it. Like it is, nothing has changed in
totally.
any way, shape, or form.
Totally. I guess
So
we've
it's just,
changed, but for sure, I won't speak for you. My taste buds have not changed. They like all the same bad stuff
yeah,
that they always have, for sure.
yep. And you know what's, one of the things that I also think can help make those good decisions, nutritionally anyway, right? Is, getting back to programming. If you are actually disciplined enough, because it takes discipline to follow programming that has a lot of variance, I think that helps because if you're just squatting and deadlifting every day, I can eat really bad and squat and deadlift every day. But if I know that we have to go to the track for some 800-meter repeats, I don't want to put garbage into my body that is going to be a really painful bad day that's going to leave us going to be like a nightmare session.
For sure, for sure. And I agree with that wholeheartedly. You know, yeah, you can if you're just lifting, and I mean we see it, you know, if you're just lifting, sure, you probably can eat as much as you want and everything. You probably should in a lot of ways if you're really just trying to, you know, up those numbers or whatever the case is. I don't know the science behind getting super strong, but I'm sure you can get away with eating as much as you want. But geez, with your programming, no way, man. Like you can't go nuts with the food if just like you're saying with some of these workouts that we have to do on a daily basis.
But I do it because I care. But so these days you've got it under control, and nobody would think that you're, in your mid 40s by a long shot. I'm sure you got, and isn't it interesting also that got some wisdom in the beard there. Isn't it interesting that as you progress into each decade of life, if you are fit, you're in a more elite category and elite category. Like if you're 25, now you might be out of shape, but it's not unusual to see a 25-year-old that is in relatively good shape. Then at 35, it's less common. Then at 45, you're the weirdo that people are like, dude, what do you do? You look amazing. You're like, geez, really, is this actually so different from what people see all the time? But the sad truth is, as we well know in America, it is. It's not the norm. So for somebody like you that now appears from the outside looking in, that you got it dialed. You found your groove. You're working out. You've got your nutrition settled in. Do you have bad days where you crash and burn? Do you allow yourself to go off the rails every now and then, or are you just, locked in 24 hours a day, 7 days a week?
I'm a super fitness robot.
There you go. Hey, interview over. Done deal.
No, man. I mean, gosh, of course, we all bad days are like honestly, the bad days are some of the best days. I always feel like, and I always felt like this when I worked out before training CrossFit, and even now. You know, when you feel like crap, and you're moving poorly through a workout, or you feel like, oh, you know, your friends are kicking your butt in the class or whatever the case is, and you feel like absolute, you know what? Those are the days I feel like that I get the most out of my workout. Even if I
Mm,
like had what I felt like was a lackluster effort, and you know today was just not a good day. To me, that's where the best days come from, because it's easy. We're CrossFitters obviously, and we like to kick our own butts. We learn how to like that. um it's easy to do that when you feel good, right?
right.
Like, you know, so I feel like the bad days are great, as hard as they are to get through. I have them plenty of times. Now, do I have a bad day in terms of like, let's say work goes bad, or you know things aren't good at home and I'm just like down in the dumps? Am I going to go grab a 2 liter Mountain Dew and chug it? No. You know, that like that kind of thing isn't going to happen. I'm not going to have a bad day and like
Hmm.
turn into the old me or anything like that. But sure, bad days are, they're inevitable. And quite frankly, hopefully, in a weird way, hopefully I get them half the time. I don't,
Right.
you know what I mean? Hopefully half the days are bad.
When you do, it won't be the 2 liter Mountain Dew anymore, but when you do allow yourself a sweet treat for whatever reason it happens to be, what's high on the list?
Oh man. Um, like I've got there's this cashew ice cream that I absolutely love. So it will be the So Delicious. They make this cashew ice cream, which is incredible, and Twizzlers. I still have Twizzlers is like my favorite candy of all time. And
Nice.
if like we go on a road trip, or like there's times that I'll just say, you know what, Twizzlers it is, and I don't sweat it. I don't like if I'm gonna do that. If I make the decision, because it's a conscious decision to do right or wrong. If I make the conscious decision to do wrong one time, or I don't, one thing I don't do is I don't allow myself to feel bad about it,
Good for
because
you.
it's easy to say, oh, you know, I've been working so hard, like I deserve to give myself a little something, and then you do it, and then you feel bad because you did it. So what's the point there? So, you know,
Right.
I make sure that I don't allow myself to feel bad for having done that. There's a place that's close to our house called Crumble. They make these cookies, and those are insane. Do you know
We've got
Crumble?
one near us. Yes.
So now I'm thinking, now I'm backtracking. Now, if you want to talk about eating something until I feel maybe a little bit sick, Crumble cookies. Like if I eat a
Yeah.
crumble, if I eat half a crumble cookie, like I know what I'm getting into beforehand, and I know how it's going to make my stomach feel. I know
Yes.
how it's going to make me feel. And I'm going to, it's almost like you're like, okay, I know how this is going to go. I'm just going to accept it. I'll eat the half of a crumble cookie, and not 10 minutes later, I feel like absolute crap. And it's temporary. It goes away, whatever. I still don't beat myself up about it. And all that does is just reminds me like, hey, you don't want to be doing this all the time, because this right here, how I feel right now in my gut, is turns into every day, not just like every now and then when I do it. So all that stuff is good.
It's almost
It's
like you
good to
have
go
to.
have those breakdowns, I think.
It's almost like you have to learn it every now and then. Every now and then you need to bump into the boundaries, right? You know, it's like, oh, that's right. This does feel really bad, and oh, that's right. I used to feel like this every day.
Yep.
Now, not just tonight. So now, yep, good. We're gonna re-zero. Tomorrow's a new day. And you touched on something which is interesting, and I don't think we can solve it here, but hopefully just talking about it helps some folks because I think it's very real. And that's the emotional roller coaster of like guilt, right? Human beings are interesting creatures, and CrossFit's fantastic. I mean, I'm as much of a CrossFit fanatic as anybody else. I mean, I'm all in, and it helps you be all in because it can almost become an obsession, right? And an obsession, well, that can be good or bad. You know, if you get obsessed to the point, which I have been, and still am to some degree, where if I miss a workout, my world ends a little bit. And I know that sounds dramatic, but I feel like a failure on that day, even though if over the course of the year I would have gotten in 310 workouts and now I got in 309. And when I look at it like that, it's irrelevant, right? I got in 309 instead of 310. But on that day, I feel like the last 16 years of training are in the garbage. It's nope, it's all nothing matters anymore. And I think people can feel that same way with nutrition. Been good, I've been good, I've been good, I've been good. And as soon as somebody's bad, it's failure, it's guilt. They're so hard on themselves, they get down in the dumps, and that could potentially spiral them into staying down in the dumps for longer than they should because, well, it's everything went to hell in a handbasket. So why even start trying? And instead of saying, I've been putting in the work, I've been feeling good. Yes, I had a bad night or a bad day or even a bad long weekend, but get back on the horse as soon as you can because the sun will come out again. Cause like you're saying, you don't need to eat. If you've been eating clean for a while, sure, you eat that junky food, you get that rush of endorphins or whatever. It does feel good in the moment, but then you almost get like that food hangover
Yep.
that you can either have one or two choices, probably almost like a real hangover, right? You can either keep drinking to keep it numb or make that hard decision to be like, I got to fight through the pain and get out of this. And so it's easy when you feel bad. You're like, well, I already feel bad. I already ate like crap. What's another day? And then you eat crap that day. And you're like, what's another day? And before you know it, a month's gone by. So, man, I've had to break out of that cycle frequently, sadly, frequently.
Yep.
But so you're in the 170s to 180s right now.
Mm-hmm.
You said your high was around 260.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've I weigh 180, 185 right now. I've never been that heavy. You would carry it a lot better. I'm not 6'2", so you would carry it a lot better than I would. But for lack of a better way to ask the question, I mean, that's an 80-pound swing. Like, I can't imagine putting on an 80-pound vest. The heck with your physical capacity, like your squat, your deadlift, your frame, just a reduction of 80 pounds from your frame. Do you feel like an utterly and completely different human being just living life?
For sure. For sure. I mean, like right now I sit downstairs in my basement gym, and then we've got a garage gym upstairs in our garage, and I just think of like when I got to move the two red kettlebells that are sitting there, and I got to walk upstairs with 70 pounds in each hand or whatever it is that I'm carrying up to the garage. And I think to myself, man, like this was my life every step of the way. So, and I used to think this when I was heavy at my heaviest. I always thought like overweight people are so strong, as weird as that sounds, or like it's kind of like what, but it's like, dude, you're like when you're overweight by however many pounds, it's that weight vest of that many pounds
Mm-hmm.
that you tote around for every step of your life that you never get to put down until you work it off. But it's like, I mean, do I feel like a completely different person now? 100%. And even though I'm older now, I'm 45. I listen to my friends talk about, being in their mid 40s and how much it hurts and how old they are. Dude, I feel better now than I did in my 20s and in my 30s. Like, and
$100.
it's not even a question. Like, I'm not even like, that's not lip service. Like, I can't even begin to tell you how good I feel after starting to train CrossFit over these years. And it's not just the CrossFit. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. I'm all in. CrossFit Games shirt on. I'm stoked for the 2 weeks that are coming up. But it's not just CrossFit. But as you know, when you get into CrossFit and you meet the athletes around your gym, and there's just so much more going on than just the WOD for the day. Again, the nutrition and the sleep, and you just pick up so much stuff that just makes you a better athlete. So for me, who spent so much time not really doing all the right stuff or not really doing as much as I could back then,
Right.
I should be in the best shape of my life right now. Seriously.
Yeah. I remember when I was much younger, I'm 45 right now as well, that 45 was one foot in the grave as far as I
Ancient.
thought when I was like, in my early 20s. Those people are just, in wheelchairs and walkers and I feel fantastic. Like, so for anybody listening to this, if you take care of your body, if you eat well, if you do good functional movements, you have tremendous years ahead of you. And quite frankly, based upon how I feel right now, nothing about my 50s brings me fear.
Nope.
I think it's going to be a phenomenal decade, a fantastic decade. And I don't have any reason to think otherwise.
I agree with you. And I can tell you right now, the second I start having doubts, I'm going to go look at Neil Maddox's Instagram page, or I'm going to go look
Mm-hmm.
at one of these masters athletes that are older than I am, that have it figured out, and this, just like anything else, you see somebody doing something, not to give anybody listening this rah speech, but if you see someone doing something, you can do it too. So if I see somebody that's 50 or 60 years old doing muscle ups, you better believe that when I'm 50 or 60 years old, I plan on hoping still to be able to do muscle ups. At least that's the plan, because I know that there's someone out there right now that can do it. So there's no reason why I can't.
And the other dirty little truth is that, let's say you start to slip, or the pants start to fit a bit tighter than they should, or whatever it happens to be. Where most people are going to look initially, I think, is not the right place. Most people may think, I should be doing more in the gym, I'm not working hard enough. Maybe, but most likely not, right? Because I'm a big fan of, if you're in the gym for 1 hour a day, you're not in the gym for 23 hours out of the day. Those 23 hours of decisions are a tsunami against 1 hour of working out in the gym. It's how you're eating, how you're moving, are you stretching, how's your sleep, the whole, your relationships, your stress, your pastimes, all of that stuff is probably moves the needle far more than we want to give credit to, but we think it's just the 1 hour in the gym, which, don't get me wrong, it's vitally important, but I would highly encourage folks to look at those lifestyle factors in the 23 hours outside of the gym, quite frankly.
It's a puzzle, right? I mean, it's just like a big puzzle. I don't care what piece is missing. If there's a piece missing, the puzzle's not complete. So,
Hmm.
that's kind of it there in a nutshell, I feel like.
And probably the only thing about getting older is you probably just have a tighter strike zone, right? So maybe in your 20s, you could let things slip a bit more before they caught up with you. And then in your 30s, the strike zone got a little smaller. And then in the 40s, a little slow. So again, you just have to be a bit more diligent, because getting a little loosey-goosey with one of those will probably bite you in the butt sooner than you realize as the clock ticks on.
For sure, for sure. But I think, and that's okay. And I think, as CrossFit athletes, that we try to do our best to stay in tune with everything. Hopefully, you don't lose sight of any one thing. And it's funny to have this conversation with what I'm going to assume are most linchpin, members of the community. And it's just funny because I feel like we sit here preaching to the choir. But I think it's
Sure.
also very good though, because, and I love listening to these. Like I mentioned to you before, that's exactly what helps you stay on track, right? Is preaching to the choir, or listening to your peers preach about all that same stuff. That's how we stay on track.
So you and we knew this was going to happen. I don't know if it was a good thing or a bad thing, but we both love to talk. So we could be here for 2 hours. And
Totally.
there's 15 other things I wanted to get to that were nowhere near, which is fine. But I want to make sure that we get to two of them, before we wrap it up here. So one of the two, we still haven't talked about golf. So maybe we'll end with that.
Okay.
But the next thing we'll go to, since we've been talking about lifestyle decisions and things that happen as you get older and the choices that you make, and now through the lens of the knowledge that you have because of what you've learned from CrossFit, like what you need to do to get people's lives where they should be. You mentioned some really cool thing when you looked over to one of your siblings, I believe it was your sister, who's turning 50. So you looked at her life, and through your lens of having fitness be such a priority, you identified her out. Correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe it's somebody that could use a bit of help. So what's her situation? What caught your attention? What are you doing?
Yeah, the same thing with my sister. I mean, she grew up in the same household that I did, and like I mentioned, with my mom not wanting us to ever be hungry. There's so much more to it that goes into it. Obviously, if you don't want to just always eat and become overweight, more to it has to be done than just making sure that you're not hungry, kind of thing. But she just was fell victim of the same thing that I did, and it's not the worst thing in the world. It's just we're just a result of the way that we were raised, and we all are, and that's okay. You got to, just
Hmm.
like anything in life, you got to kind of take the good and kind of do your best to leave the bad. So when my sister was turning 50, Randy, my wife, and I, we just thought it would be a good idea to maybe look and see if she'd have any interest in potentially joining a gym, joining a CrossFit box. And she lives here in Utah, about an hour away. And we did our research ahead of time. We found the right box. CrossFit Draper, if you guys happen to tune into this, love you guys. Shout out to you guys for taking great care of her. And she joined CrossFit now. She's been doing it for 3 weeks, I want to say, and
Good for
hopefully
her.
hopefully she'll follow in the same footsteps as I did, and turn out to be as fanatical about it as I am.
Now when we were talking before, you said it's fair to say that she was not active previous to this. And the first 3 weeks, I mean, that's, deep end of the pool to go from inactive to suddenly, even an introductory session of 1 hour of movement can leave you very, very fatigued and taxed. So how's she doing?
There she is right there, 1 month exactly. Shout
Yeah.
out, sis. I love you, Erica. She's doing great. She's crushing it. I think, and I check in with her coaches a little bit, and they're proud of the work that she's doing. And she's going to CrossFit 4 days a week, putting in the hard work.
Oh, that's awesome. And I mean, and if you get yourself in a good community with people that know what they're doing, then that's a great place to be, because all you have to do is trust them and show up, right? I
That's
mean,
right.
they will guide you through that day. Be open to communications. Let them know if you're having a bad day, if you didn't sleep well, if you like, be honest. Just be honest. You be honest with your coaches, and they can make some really great decisions for you, and you'll be a different human being in 6 months or a year. Like, just consistency goes so far. You know, get off that darn roller coaster that we talked about a while
I, I
ago.
I love hearing you talk about consistency, and CrossFit Vapor was the gym that I first joined, and they had it, you know, big plastered on the wall. You know, I don't remember it exactly now, but basically, you know, just show up every day and just be consistent. You know, and really, it's just it really is that simple,
I
as
know.
crazy as it seems. It's just like,
Human
and
beings love to make things complicated that don't need to be complicated.
totally, you
They
know, and
really
you talk about, and as hard as CrossFit is, you know, we got to remind ourselves it's only an hour or so out of the day, even including all of the rolling around and the dramatics that are
right.
probably unnecessary. Even that falls into the hour. So even the hard part isn't even an hour. So, and then there's 23 more out of the rest of the day.
Yeah.
So we can push hard a little bit in the gym, and I think we'll all be okay.
We're just, we're just working out. And I guess to circle it back around, working out, improving physical capacity, and people would like to apply that to things they do outside the walls of the gym. One of those things might be golf, of which you are far more familiar than I. And you said that golf was a very interesting sport or industry because there's always an endless array of knickknacks being thrown at golfers to spend their money on to get better. And some of it might be smoke and mirrors when they just need some, do some power cleans.
Right. Okay, real quick, my mom is on here. And it's
Oh
so crazy to be
yeah.
45 years old and to be able to say, "Hi, Mom, I love you," and not be embarrassed that your mom's chiming in. So thanks for being proud of me, Mom. Um,
100%.
so golfers, we're an interesting bunch in the fact that we're no different than any other human being out there, and we want results now. Right now, we already wanted the results. So the golf industry, I feel like, has taken advantage of that, and they really play into the golfer and the stereotypical golfer who is someone that probably has disposable income. You know, they've got money to spend, so here's golf with 1,000 different training aids. Think of every sport that you've ever played. Everybody that's listening, every sport you've ever played, every sport that you know about. How many sports have hundreds, literally hundreds of different gadgets to make you better at that sport? I can't think of very many other than golf for sure. Tennis has a couple of things, but not much, but nothing like golf. And golfers, I feel like, have always been taken advantage of in that regard. But I feel like the golfer's mind, I feel like it's good to be that way, because if you're looking for the right stuff, if you're trying to get the right things, you really can get a lot out of whatever it is that you're looking for. But as golfers, we seem to always want the quick fix right now.
Sure. Yeah. And is it safe to assume, as myself, intimately familiar with strength and conditioning, not specifically familiar with golf, but you're just, in my mind, not to lump everybody together, but another athlete that needs powerful hip drive and a strong midline to excel at their sport, which is what we do all the time in CrossFit. Posterior chain, powerful hip opening, strong midlines that you can potentiate power through your weak limbs, such as your arms, because your core and your midline's rock solid. That's football, that's baseball, that's soccer, and is it safe to assume that's golf as well?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's, and I'm sorry, I just lost train of thought. As much as I'm not supposed to be getting disturbed, I just did a little bit. So sorry about that.
So is just no if you get a golfer out there who's looking to get better at the game of golf, do they need to do some sort of sports specific training, so to speak, or is the workout of the day with a nice dose of variance and intensity and scaling when appropriate, is that going to pay big dividends to the golfer?
When I think about the way that I trained in the past versus now, it's not even a question. Golf specific fitness programs, and as I mentioned on our conversation, there's a lot of those as well. There's a lot of golf specific training programs out there, and for me, I don't necessarily find that to be so as important as just GPP, right?
Mm,
There's a lot to be said for GPP.
yeah.
And to me, that goes way further than any kind of working out that I can do that's only going to specifically speak to my golf swing, if that makes sense. And then,
Hmm.
and again, there's plenty of programs out there that they just want to, because the golfer, we're always looking for that answer or something to hang on to. So here's plenty of people that have capitalized on it. So it'll be nice once CrossFit really dives in. We talked a little bit about, Noble and Scott Stallings, who plays on tour, and he's a big functional fitness guy. And I would love to see CrossFit kind of dig into golf a little bit more. So to see a true CrossFit brand do that, really exciting for me personally.
So the space is ripe for it, quite frankly.
100%. It's 100% right for it. And I mentioned in our call, golf and fitness. It's nothing new. It's been around for ages. It's more popular now than it has been in the past. But there was a time, and I mentioned to you, Tiger had issues with his glutes not activating. Okay, he couldn't get his glutes to activate for this tournament, and the golfing community went nuts. Best golfer in the world, you can't get your glutes to fire, and what does that even mean, kind of thing. And I was already doing CrossFit at the time, had a pretty good idea of what he meant by
Hmm.
that. And it makes perfect sense. If I talk to anybody that's on this chat and I talk about muscles firing or not firing, you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. Whether it's checking, whether do you have butt wink at the bottom of your squat or whatever. There's plenty of
Hmm.
different examples of that. We get that as CrossFitters immediately. Like Tiger says something like that, it's like, yep, you gotta, he needs to go ahead and address and figure out how to get those things firing again. Where most people are like, you're just making up excuses.
Right.
You didn't play good because you're making up excuses. And the reality of it is, you and I know that that's not the case.
Right. Yep. So that'll be interesting just to see how far golf can go potentially once all of a sudden you've got athletes out there on the golf course that, a 400-pound deadlift is now commonplace.
It'll be a game changer. It'll be a game changer from the sense of golfers notoriously have back issues,
Mm.
especially the guys that play at that high level because of just the constant torque that they put on the whole posterior chain gets compromised in the golf swing in a lot of ways. And when you do it at that level, and think of a CrossFit athlete, a games athlete, and their volume compared
Hmm.
to yours and my volume.
Hmm.
Same thing for a tour professional. That guy is hitting way more balls than I'm ever going to hit, so he's going to put more strain on his back than I'm ever going to put on mine.
Right.
That guy needs the big GHD machine, and he needs the stuff that we do on a daily basis, and we
Sure.
just do it. Again, we do it for GPP, where this guy can do it and apply it to his career and potentially have a better career. Golf is all about distance. Golf is all about hitting the ball. As obviously, you got to hit it straight and you got to get the ball in the hole. But look at the people that are dominating on tour and they hit the ball a mile. Even if you're not into golf, you might have heard the name Bryson DeChambeau
Hmm.
recently. Maybe you haven't. Bryson is this guy, very scientific mind, really analytical thinker. And he was a thin-framed guy when he came out on tour. And he just thought to himself, I'm going to get as big and as strong as I can and see what that does for my golf game, kind of thing. And now he's, put on, I don't know, 30 or 40 pounds. He's a completely different looking person
Hmm.
now, much bigger than he was. But he hits the ball a mile now. And when you can hit the ball further, the game just becomes easier. So now you take these guys that already have ridiculous amounts of skill at this game. And if you were to add functional movements to get them their bodies doing what they're supposed to do, to me, I think their games get elevated a whole other level if they could implement the things that we do every day into their lives.
Well, I hope some of them are listening. I'm sure it will infiltrate. Hey, it's a big money sport. People are competitive. They want to get ahead however they can. It will eventually get there. It's just who will be first, who will lead the charge, and how long will it take to be commonplace. So when somebody says, their glutes aren't firing, they're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Come on
Yep.
over to the trailer here. We'll get you squared away, and you'll be good to go. So, well, Greg, I tell you what, man, we didn't disappoint. This was a blast. I knew that it would be, and I appreciate you sharing your time. I appreciate you letting me interrupt your morning, but I very much appreciate you just transparency and honesty, especially about a lot of the food and nutrition stuff, because it can be a topic some people don't discuss openly or candidly, but it's information people need. And I think you nailed it. And I thank you for that.
I appreciate that, man. It just comes down to us just being honest with ourselves, and honestly just not beating ourselves up. Like if you can just get rid of that guilt, but actually, don't get rid of the guilt that you feel when you're not doing anything. Like you need that guilt. Don't get rid of that guilt. When you're being
Mm-hmm.
lazy and you're giving yourself a guilt trip, listen to that one. But if you're doing the right things and you take a little bit, or don't beat yourself up. It's just not worth it. And I feel like, at least for me, having, loosening the reins a little bit and just being consistent made all the difference. Because now I don't ever feel like I don't feel like there's anything that I can't have, or like, oh, I'm not stressed because of it.
I completely. Life's too short to feel that way. That's
Amen.
a sad way to feel. Well, if anybody wants to follow you on the good old social medias, what's your Instagram account?
Instagregs with an S on the end. So my name is Greg Stevens. Have been on Instagram forever. So that's just what it was back in 2011 or whatever, and I haven't changed it. So Instagregs with an S. Follow me. I'll be sure to follow you back.
All right, man. Well, hey, I appreciate it, and we'll connect again. Have a great day, and say hello to your family, and we'll talk
Like
soon, brother.
Likewise. Thanks so much, Coach. Talk to you soon.
Later, Greg.
Bye.